This year has been a very successful year for superhero films, both commercially and critically. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and Spider-Man Homecoming kept the Marvel Cinematic Universe train rolling. Logan managed to give its central character a poignant and lucrative send-off, and Wonder Woman has not only become one of the most praised superhero films in recent years, but just recently became the highest grossing superhero origin film at the US domestic box office, when not taking inflation into account. However, there's one superhero film released this year that no one quite knows where to place. It didn't ignite the box office with the flames of the next big film franchise, but it also wasn't completely written off as a flop to be forgotten and rebooted again by next Christmas. The film I'm talking about is Lionsgate's Power Rangers, the big budget adaptation of the classic 1990s kids television series about 5 teenagers with attitude bestowed with incredible powers who fight all kinds of aliens, demons and monsters of all varieties. People are having difficulty labeling this film as either a success or a bomb because the situation isn't as black and white as simply the film not making enough money in cinemas to cover its production costs. Many sources claim the film's budget to range anywhere from $100 to $105 million. After a solid opening weekend of over $40 million, the film rapidly declined as it got lost in a pile of other blockbusters being released at the time, such as the live-action Beauty and the Beast and Fate of the Furious, before it finally settled with a final US domestic total of over $85 million. A further $56.9 million overseas did boost the film's returns for a worldwide total of $142.3 million at this current point in time. However, the problems start to arise when you remember that this budget only takes into account the production of the film. There's also marketing, promotional costs to consider, not to mention other payments going out to cinema chains and other contracts that have been negotiated with cast and crew. This would diminish any profits that the film had made, but on the other hand, it's been reported that the film has had a very productive run on the home release market, with impressive DVD sales and a huge increase in toy sales. With no official numbers released for these contributing factors, this is why people are finding it difficult to judge whether a sequel could be greenlit. Now, director of the film, Dean Israelette, has stated that talks are commencing for a sequel, but talks of a sequel are vastly different from the official announcement of a sequel by the producers. Nothing is confirmed, even though Saban and Lionsgate have stated plans for a 6 to 7 film franchise. I wanted to talk about this not only because of the interest in discussion about how additional factors outside the box office can influence potential sequels, but also because this film was so different from what I thought I was going to get. And I loved it for that reason, more so than I could have hoped before going in to see it. And it saddens me that the film fell down the ladder so quickly as it was drowned out by one blockbuster released after the other. And I know I'm not the only one that feels that way. If the massive DVD sales are anything to go by, I know I'm not alone. This is why I wanted to make this video. That's why today I wanted to talk about why Power Rangers 2017 deserves a sequel. I've been a fan of Power Rangers for as long as I can remember. I watched the show constantly from the original Mighty Morphin era all the way up to Wild Force. I did occasionally see bits and pieces of the seasons that followed, but not to the same extent as the earlier ones. It also didn't help that in the UK this series seemed to switch TV channel every year, and I ultimately lost track of where the show was airing and just stopped watching it entirely. Something that may have been attributed to this was Disney. Back in 2001, the Disney had acquired Fox Family Worldwide, and had thus purchased the Power Rangers franchise as part of the buyouts. They would continue to air the show and produce new seasons throughout the years that followed, but it became clear that Disney just weren't interested in the series, deeming the show too violent for its family-friendly brand. In 2009, it was announced that production would cease and no more Power Rangers shows would air after the 17th season Power Rangers RPM. Then, on the 12th of May 2010, Haim Saban had bought back the rights to Power Rangers for around $43 million, and not only were plans announced to rejuvenate the franchise with brand new television series, but talks of a possible feature-length film were being discussed. Finally, in May of 2014, Saban partnered with Lionsgate Studio, hot off their success with the Hunger Games film franchise, and officially announced a live-action theatrically released film. While there had been 2 previous theatrically released films, this would be a brand new version of the story with a much larger budget, hoping to start a brand new blockbuster franchise. We fast forward to 3 years later and the film has been released, and no one is sure if this franchise has any potential to continue with its mediocre box office returns. Dean Israelette claims that a big put-off for this film was the film's PG-13 rating, hinting at an uncertainty among parents on whether or not this film would be suitable for young children to see it. Considering children are the main demographic for Power Rangers, there is some truth behind this. Although I have also talked about Power Rangers being lost in the midst of other blockbuster releases, and that certainly didn't help its cause. Also, I believe that the film's mixed response from critics left many feeling unsure on whether this film was worth seeing. Now, I'm not saying that the people who viewed this film negatively are wrong. I have my own personal opinion, as does everyone else, so I acknowledge that the film is not going to be as well received with others as it was for me. In fact, I do partially agree with some of the criticism that the film has received, from an awkward opening act to some misfired jokes, and while I do appreciate the angle the film took building up the morphin sequence, I can see where this would throw some people off. After all, if you are going into a film called Power Rangers, you expect to see the Power Rangers. But I do like this approach that they took. I knew going in that this was going to be an origin story, and I knew that they weren't going to tell the story the same way it had been told before. One of the big differences between this version and the original series is that in the original, the 5 chosen teenagers were already friends or were on friendly terms from the very beginning. In this film, they actually have to work towards that. They either don't know each other or don't have the best opinions of one another. They're not just given the powers and expected to fight evil. A big part of the film's narrative is that they can't morph unless they come together as a team, which is made all the more difficult when they realize that they're all social outcasts in one way or another. One of the biggest influences for this film was the 1985 film The Breakfast Club, a film about 5 teenagers stuck in detention together, each filling an outcast cliché. They bond and interact with one another, realizing that they are so much more than what society claims them to be. The teenagers in Power Rangers are troubled from the very start of the film, and are judged or criticized by others either because of who they are or because of actions that they have taken. Jason is scolded by his father for throwing away a promising football career by sustaining a leg injury in a prank gone wrong. Billy is picked on by others and finds it difficult to make reliable friends because of his autism. Zach keeps to himself so that he can look after his sick mother. Trini is always moving from town to town, becoming the new girl, and lives under the roof of a family who wants her to fit into a certain label even though she is an LGBTQ teen. Finally, Kimberly is taunted and shunned by others because of her involvement in a scandal with another student. It was a surprisingly mature topic to discuss in a film like this, and was taken in a vastly different direction than what you would expect it to be if you heard it before going in to see this film. These teens might have heard of each other beforehand, but they don't actually know each other. They learn about each other as we, the audience, do. Power Rangers has been a show that has prided itself in diversity, and this film is no different. From ethnicity, sexual orientation, social backgrounds, they think differently and have different outlooks on getting these powers. They don't just acquire them and they're the Power Rangers. In this continuity, they can't be Power Rangers simply because they are told they are Power Rangers. They have to come to an understanding with one another. They have to learn from each other and create bonds that they never could before or weren't allowed to. Something that greatly appeals to people, especially young teens trying to find their place in this world and learn that being different is okay. When Jason gets his powers, his leg is healed. But when Billy gets his powers, he is still autistic. There's nothing that's seen wrong with this. He doesn't need to be fixed, it's just who he is. A big part of Billy's storyline is that he is the heart of the team. He's the one who forms the bonds the quickest with other members, emphasized further when he's the first one among the 5 who can morph. On a more personal note, I have a younger brother who's autistic, and watching the scenes between Jason and Billy had me grinning. It mirrored so much of what it was like between me and my brother, especially when Jason asks Billy not to shout when speaking and Billy responds that he's not shouting. I can't count the amount of times my brother and I have had this conversation with one another. Each member of the team has a unique background, and thus their struggles are different, and each given a proper weight to them. This film takes its time to establish who these young people are, where they are in their lives, and the struggles they face as they try to fit in or just accept that things are the way they are and nothing can change about it. They feel powerless and they become powerful coming together as a team and helping one another. This was the most important element of the film, something that the cast and crew have mentioned numerous times. It went as far as the filmmakers deleting a scene with Jason and Kimberly where they share a kiss after test audiences found it underwhelming and thought it undermined one of the characters. When we see these characters on the surface, we think of the stereotypes, the leader, the genius, the loner, but as we grow and get to know them, we find out more under the surface and see them as people, just as the characters do. We are on this journey with them. Let's talk about the Zords for a moment. It's stated in the film that the Zords take on the form of the most powerful animals on the planet, hence why most of them are from prehistoric animals that dominated when Zordon and Alpha were around. In the Battle of Goldar, the Zords form into one being, the Megazord. Now, this can be looked at in one of two ways. Either it's mimicking the form of Goldar, as he is now the most powerful being on the planet in this battle, or on the other hand, it took on the form of one Ranger, a physical representation of the connection between the team as they are willing to die to protect one another and the people around them. It's most likely the latter, as the Zords are stated to be linked to the Rangers' morphin, and that the morphin is linked to the Rangers coming together as a team, so the Zords have done the same thing literally. So it isn't just about fun spectacle for the sake of high stakes and filling an action quota with large scale special effects. There's an in-universe reason behind everything that happens. This is actually some pretty genius subtle world building that really went underlooked and I feel was underappreciated in this film. While we may joke about the abundance of Krispy Kreme product placements, this is the ultimate culmination of the character building and development that we have been seeing so far. Characters that have been properly established and that we've seen grow. A team dynamic that we see change, we see disagreements, we see them bonding, we see them form an unbreakable link. This is told in a world that is brimming with endless possibilities, and told in a tone that, while obviously was going for a more darker and grounded route than the original show, it isn't afraid to show its love for what came before it. It's fine that it has its cheesier, more goofy moments and is allowed to have a laugh every once in a while. It would have been so easy to just make this film a by the numbers standard action fest, just having robots and monsters fight each other with explosions filling the screen, and the Rangers just going from one action set piece to another. Or it could be going the routes that many other blockbusters are going down in trying to start their own cinematic universes, setting up one sequel or spin-off after the other rather than just focusing on its own storyline. Instead, the film went deeper as it went underneath the suit and told the story of the teenagers, talking about how they were given this great power and this great responsibility. They are different and at the same time relatable. It's mature and adult themes are discussed, but it's done in a fun way while showing that how we feel and how we treat others matters. This might be a controversial opinion, but Power Rangers has been one of my favourite films that has been released so far this year. I was going into this film hoping that the least I could get out of it was 2 hours of silly fun. Hopefully that wouldn't tarnish the name of a beloved franchise. While the fun and spectacle did come, it wasn't the main focus. Instead, the focus was on the characters being played brilliantly by these young actors. The development and the growth in their relationships with one another was genuine. It felt like an origin story where the power had to be truly earned. And not only did you see them earn it, it felt like you were experiencing it with them. This was a summer blockbuster that took chances, that wasn't afraid to do things a little differently, to take a risk of not only showing the powers until the final act, but to make diversity and emotion an important element to this story. So how can I sum up this video? Well, it's safe to say that I feel Power Rangers does deserve a sequel. You've heard me gush about the film for whatever time the video is at this point. But Lionsgate won't go through with a sequel unless they are certain that it can make a profit at the box office. And considering the mediocre reaction the first film got, there's no guarantee. Luckily they're in a very positive position because they've already got certain elements that will have people coming back for a sequel.
Tommy Oliver. Tommy Oliver. Tommy Oliver. Tommy Oliver. Tommy Oliver.
The Green with Evil storyline in the original series still to this day is one of the most popular and talked about events in the Power Rangers fandom. There is no doubt that this is what the filmmakers will do with the second film. Whatever version of Tommy Oliver the sequel does go for, one thing is for certain: they will become the Green Ranger and they will either be tricked or hypnotized into fighting the Power Rangers. This will get older fans back because now they will see one of the best Power Rangers storylines on the big screen with a much larger budget, and it will entice new fans who will be intrigued with the idea of our team fighting an evil Power Ranger, which was hinted at when it was shown that Rita was a former Ranger and betrayed her previous team, and we are going to see history repeat itself with a new Green Ranger. To add to the stakes, it could introduce the famous Dragon Sword, and if they wanted to take it a step further, which they've hinted they already want to do, they could introduce one of the most popular Power Ranger villains of all time in Lord Zed. Not only that, but the criticisms plaguing the first film can be addressed and fixed. The origin story is now out of the way, so it can focus on the Rangers being the Rangers. What would their lives be like now? How will their relationships have changed? Not only with themselves, but with the people around them, like their families. And how will Tommy Oliver shake up the dynamic? The idea is already generating so much interest. A fan favorite character and potential fan favorite villain will be introduced. Now that people have a better judgment of what the film is like, they can go into the sequel and have a clearer understanding of what they can expect. I think that was what threw people off with the first film. We just didn't know what we were gonna get. The film went into a different route. I certainly hope that we do get a sequel, not only because I want to see Tommy Oliver or Lord Zed or the Dragon Zord, or even possibly Serpentera or the Zeo Rangers. I want to see all that with this new team. I want to see the sequel told in this style, a style that's not afraid or ashamed to be a little different. A film that says we are Power Rangers and we are so much more.